Firstly, thank you very much for taking the time this evening. I'll tell you a little bit about how we came to start this business and what we do. We started Eco-Move about a year ago, and my business partner and I thought, there are lots of diesel cars on the road, petrol cars, electric cars are just another piece of tin. So we thought about, what form of transport is green, low cost, and has zero carbon emissions. And we were out in Europe and saw that there were a lot of e-mopeds darting around. So looked at that and thought, why couldn't we do something like that in the UK? So cutting a long story short, we've sort of expanded from there and looked at kind of all forms of electric two-wheel transport. So from the step-on scooters to electric bikes to electric mopeds. And we thought that if we are focused on just what we think are the quality brands in each of those areas, then when people come and look at these things, and we can give good quality advice rather than having a plethora of products that confuses everyone. We also wanted to make it much easier. So the store that you can see there in front of you is only being open a few weeks. It's in its first iteration. We'll launch it fully on the 30th of this month and open to the public really from the 1st of August. You can drop in anyway. You'll have to take us as you find us, but we've still got the products and everything there. So the idea is that it'll be like an Apple store that you will walk in. You can see all the products; they're all fresh and easy to look at. The other big difference about this store is that you can see the length of that store. It's as deep as that. So the whole back is dedicated to an indoor track. So if you like something, you can try it out in complete safety. And we've got an artist, a famous Bristol artist, who's painting the out back at the moment. So it will look a bit funky, a bit jazzy, but a place that you can go in complete safety and try these things out. So that store is on Hotwells Road. It is right opposite the SO garage on Hotwells Road. And we are open from Monday to Saturday, 10 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And basically we do all things electric, everything from 15 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour. So depending on your mode of transport you want or your length of journey, there'll be something in there for you. But the common theme is that it'll be all electric. Could you go to the next slide, please, Dorian? So these are the electric mopeds. We've gone with the major brand there. It's called NIU. There are basically two products. One that's go just under 30 miles an hour, and one just go under 50. And their range is from 25 to 85 miles. So if you're darting in and around the Bristol or Bath environs, then these are the products. They cost less than a penny a mile to run. And they charge on a 3-pin plug. So the battery you can take out should you wish and take it inside and plug it in, or you can charge it from a 3-pin plug outside. There's no road tax on it. You get a 20% government grant at source, so they are a little bit cheaper, and you can travel in bus lanes. So people quite obviously and think of safety, but if you're in the bus lane and they're quite zippy, these things, you can stay out of the way of other traffic. So they are used kind of all over Europe at the moment, and in Paris 5 years ago they were selling about 199 petrol mopeds to one electric, and now it's the other way around. So everybody's going greener. It takes the car off the road, carbon free. So that is a great way of contributing to the kind of clean air that we want in Bristol. The other thing that we found as well on these as well, typically, although there's two guys sitting on there, motorbikes historically have been the environs of the male environment, about 80% male, 20% female. But because these are lighter, they're cleaner, there's no noise, there's no liquids, and we find just actually over 50% of the purchases are actually female rather than male. So they're being taken up really quite widely by both genders and different age groups as well. So the oldest person we've had on the moped has been 82. So you know, there's something there for everyone. The next slide is talking about electric. It's the e-scooters. So you've seen those. They are illegal on the roads at the moment. We are part of the tender that's going out to do a trial in Bristol, or in fact in the southwest. And the current speed limit that's there is 15.5, I think, is the speed limit. I think they've got that there from the 25 kilometers per hour. So that's a direct comparison to the two. So that's why it's 0.5. We believe because of the roads, you know, these are going to just have to be like, you know, bicycles. So in the same way that the road safety applies to bikes, should apply to these as well. So they won't be allowed on the pavements. But with our roads, you're probably going to need a 10-inch wheel. The brands that we are looking at, well, again, look, we've done the homework. So Xiaomi's and Segway are the two major brands. But we've also got Kick and our own brand. Price wise, they go from £350 to £499, so just under 500. The Xiaomi's a little bit more expensive, but I think the Kick, the brand that we've got there, that you can see on the picture, is a pretty good quality. The mopeds go from £1,300, so probably just cheaper than an electric bike, up to £3,500. So again, you know, if the moped's at £3,500 does 50 miles an hour, this is about £350 and does 15 miles an hour. So I think when the trials are over, you'll have to watch this space, I think, and see what the government does. But I think the current thinking is that's be the speed limit. You will also need at least a provisional driver's license and be over 16 as well. So trying to get a bit of safety in there, which I think is certainly essential. And then if we move on to the next slide, so that's e-bicycle there. So there's a fold bike. That's the fold away bike. There is one of the models we've got. And we do 3 other models, Scott and Raleigh, but also another model that we've just got coming in, which we haven't confirmed yet. But again, that's, you can see actually the background there. That is the inside where you can cycle around. So on the trial of the scooters, we're involved in that, and the tenders are going out in the next week to 10 days. I would think that probably that they will take 2 or 3 weeks to respond to. So back end of August, I would think you'd have the trial set in terms of who they're going to pick, and I would think probably the trial will be somewhere in probably September, October, which probably isn't the best of weathers, but there you go. In terms of the batteries, we've tried to keep the quality brand. So most of the products we've got is a Bosch motor and mainly a Panasonic battery. So the Panasonic batteries come with a 3-year warranty, and they're a bit like your laptop. So they take about 3 hours to charge on the mopeds, a couple of hours on the other brands. I can't see that. Are the brand sounds interesting. So yeah, so we've tried to keep that on the quality side. And as I said, you wouldn't run a car down to, petrol down to the light goes on, or probably on a laptop phone less than 30%. So if your moped is 30 or 40%, you'd probably charge it 3 hours to charge, and you can monitor it and charge it overnight as well. Yes, they do regenerative braking, so they are the kind of the latest braking on there. The Eco-Move product is very, very similar on the Xiaomi, which is the kind of world leader, but we've got a very similar model, which is about £50 to £100 cheaper. There we are. I will stop there. I've been trying to answer the questions as we've been going along.
Yes, no, thank you for doing that, Teddy. There were excuse me. There were a couple just at the top that I think you missed. The first one was about the price compared to fossil fuel scooters. Now, I assume the question is about mopeds rather than a push scooter, because I think I bought mine when I was about 10 for about £10. So, so the compare between an electric moped and a fossil fuel moped.
I didn't know there was a fossil fuel moped. So if there is one, you'll be educating me.
Okay. All right, then. The other one was about older people with poor balance who wouldn't feel safe on two-wheeled e-vehicles. Are there e-trikes? And yeah.
Very good question. We have had a lot of older people who have kind of just don't particularly like their electric bike because it's a bit shaky. So yes, it is something we're looking into. As I said at the start, we want to do all electric. So watch this space. It is something that I think is required. I think there's a market there, and the e-trike is on our radar. We haven't got it yet, but it's certainly something we're looking at.
Nikki and I came to Eco-Move on Friday morning to look around a little bit, and we spoke to your colleague John.
Yeah.
Yes, John, and he was telling us actually that the trick with e-trikes is that actually they've got a really wide turning circle.
Yes.
And so that you really have to be even more careful around corners on an e-trike than you would on a regular bike. Yeah. So there are sort of trade-offs that come with having that extra bit of stability, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at it. What we try and do is we do the homework so that when you come in, we've done that. So we just pick the top 2 or 3. There was a question I just missed there.
How long do the batteries last before you have to replace them?
Good question. The Panasonic, and we spoke to Panasonic, and they said between 15 and 20 years, but we didn't want to tell people that because it didn't sound too good. I think you're probably looking at somewhere around 10 years. There's a warranty on them of 3, so they're pretty good, and they are the better batteries.
Mm-hmm. Usual question re e-vehicles: range, time to charge. I mean, this is going to be variant.
I think I covered that. They'll do up to 85 miles and three. I can't read the whole of that question. So about 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours to charge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. The question that's just come up is about the electric bike shop in Lower Redland, which already has e-trikes. The problem in Bristol is that the cambers on the road are rather acute.
Cambers.
Yes, Bristol is an old city with some acute angles. Yes, no, yeah, absolutely.
Well, look, guys, listen, if you know where we are, if you want to pop in at any time and have a chat, please do. We'd love to hear your thoughts, ideas, on the trike, certainly. What we want to try and do is kind of engage with people, listen to what people have got to say, and come up with the best electric for everybody else. Yeah,
Nikki and I had a lot of fun trialing e-scooters and things in the back room. Yeah. So if someone does want to give one a trial, Eco-Move's a good place. Although, as I've been passed a note here, none of the services that we're going to hear from in tonight's talk are necessarily recommendations. We do have a page on our website about better transport options generally, and all of these services are on there, as well as alternatives. So by all means, everybody do shop around, but do check out Eco-Move, especially Cliftonites. It's just down the hill. Why not?
Yeah. Yes, going back up the hill may be a problem.
Yeah, bring your own. That's your problem.
Just it's better if you do book. If you just email me, teddy@ecomove.co.uk. We'll sort you out.
Fantastic. Okay, Teddy.
All right. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. Go and enjoy your next meeting.
Thanks you.
I'll get your slides off here. Let's hit that button. All right. Our next speaker is Mark Hand, who I will unmute now, hopefully. Yes, there we go. Hi, Mark.
Hello there.
Mark is the Business Development Director of liftshare.com. I'll let him explain exactly what that is. Mark, are you able to share your screen now, or do I need to make you the host?
Let's have a go. No, you need to make me the host, I'm afraid.
Okay, that's fine. We anticipated that. I may just have to find you. There you are. More make host. All right. I've entrusted you with immense power. Use it for good, not evil.
Okay. So with a bit of luck, I'll look for a couple of thumbs up. You can all see that.
Looks perfect.
Fantastic. Thank you. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak tonight. I would love to pop down to Eddie's shop. Unfortunately, we're in Norwich, so it's a little bit of a trek. I'm getting the opportunity to admit more people now, so I'll carry on doing that while I speak as well. Just bear with me one sec. Right, that's better. So my CEO was meant to be doing this tonight, and he apologises, and that's a genuine apology because he's had to do something else. And the reason it's very genuine is that LiftShare started in Clifton all of 20, whatever that is, 22 years ago. So Ali Clabban set up LiftShare when he was at University of Bristol, primarily because when it was time to go home at Christmas, he'd realised he'd spent all his money, probably on beer, and couldn't get home to Norfolk. So he put a sign up saying, "Is anyone going my way?" and had several people offer and come back to him, and suddenly he had a brainchild which led to LiftShare. And 22 years later, we have 1 million members, and we've taken 1 billion miles off the road network in the UK. Our mission now, as Ali's put here, is to achieve zero carbon commuting by 2030, and that's what I'll talk you through this evening. And yes, we'd love your support. I should just explain that what's happened over those 22 years is that we started off very much as a car share platform. So we established websites that enable people to find others to share with. And that process took place in two ways. One was just a public-facing website that allowed anybody to go on, find someone to share with, and, for example, share a trip to a football match or the shops or a cinema or whatever. The other side was talking to major employers, so universities, hospitals, private sector, local authorities, and so on, and establishing community schemes for the employees at those organisations. And that is what we did for the best part of, I guess, 15 years. And throughout that entire time, not a single no member of LiftShare paid a single penny for the use of the service. So revenue was generated by charging the organisations, and then we could use that money to reinvest and to provide the public-facing scheme free of charge as well. Now, about 6 or 7 years ago, one of our clever tech guys came up with a new idea, which was to produce what we called a personal travel plan. So it enabled us to take somebody's home postcode, their destination, and the time of arrival and departure, and produce for them in about 20 seconds a personalised travel plan that covered every mode of travel. So whether that be walking and cycling, public transport, park and ride, car sharing, multimodal. And not only could we do that on an individual basis, but we could take the postcodes for everyone that worked for, say, Aviva, 1,000 people, and within a couple of hours, we could produce a bespoke travel plan for each and every one of those individuals that work at that location. So that moved LiftShare really from a focus on car sharing to a focus on sustainable travel. And as time has moved forward, that focus has become more acute. And as mentioned earlier, our target now is achieving zero carbon commuting by 2030 across the UK. So there's a lot on this page, and I'm going to just try to highlight a few things for you, some pretty critical parts of the process. So we're focusing here in on Bristol, and you'll see at the top we're talking about something called an Accel score. Now Accel just stands for the average commuting emissions level by an individual, and the idea is that we get to a point where that level for commute is 0 by 2030. So that's what we want to achieve for Bristol. Now the current situation in terms of Bristol is reasonably healthy. I'm just going to use the cursor to point down here at 679 as the Accel score for Bristol. Now you'll notice that the UK average over here is 739. So Bristol is doing better, and the reason it's doing better is you'll notice up here that the on-foot comparison between Bristol and the national average is very positive, and the cycling figure is also very positive. So that's good news. But what we want to achieve is to halve that figure by 2025 and to reduce it by 100% by 2030. Now, what's important is that two things really. I think what COVID has shown us is that massive change can happen in a very short space of time. And I think there are many individuals and organisations who see all the downsides, of course, that COVID has brought, but also the fact that there is a distinct window of opportunity here from a sustainability perspective to make a massive difference. Now in Bristol, we've still got 46.5% of individuals driving alone to work. And that's the key that we need to change. And we need to change it from driving alone to start to further increase those people walking, cycling, taking public transport, car sharing, sharing EV vehicles, and also, and a new element really that's come in or been heightened by the COVID experience is working from home. So if I'm working from home, my commute emissions are 0. And so the fact that there are an increasing number of people, and the feedback is somewhere between 40 and 50%, who would rather have a blended approach to working in the future. So spending on average 2 to 3 days working from home and the balance in the office gives us a tremendous opportunity to make that part of the mix as we head towards carbon zero. Sorry, one sec, my computer's just frozen.
Sorry, Mark, we've just had a question from the chat. That's just a fairly simple clarification. The figures you're showing, they're really, really interesting. Are they in miles traveled or number of journeys? The number 679, for instance, what is 679? Okay,
so 679 is the average commuting emissions level per individual. So of all those people that are commuting in Bristol, their average emission level is 679 grams per kilometre.
Grams per kilometre?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. And that answers the question.
And you've got a national average of 739.
Yeah, perfect. Carry on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I've still at the moment got a frozen screen, so bear with me a second. I thought you had all the gremlins at the beginning, but clearly not.
Too many to share around, I'm afraid.
Okay.
There we go.
So, in Bristol during rush hour, there are 350,000 empty seats. So when we say that there are 46.5% of commuters driving alone, that's the result of that, is that we have 350,000 empty seats in cars. So 10 drivers for every passenger. Now that's something that we see in every single city. Across the UK, it's 38 million empty seats. So this is a huge opportunity from a car sharing perspective. And of course, as we move on to try to get to people not just sharing, but sharing electric vehicles as well. So the way we approach this, this is very much data driven. And the first thing that we will do when we speak to any organization, or we speak to a business park, or we speak to a local authority about an area, is to establish where individuals live who are commuting to a particular destination. And whilst we do that, so we are establishing it on the basis of, again, where do they live, where are their home postcodes, and where do they want to get to, and what time do they want to arrive. So if we take any major employer, and there are 90 in Bristol with more than 250 employees, we take any major employer, and let's say take 1,000 postcodes of employees going to that site, we will run those through the personal travel planning software that I referred to earlier. And what we will discover is the percentage of people going to that location who have the potential to walk, what percentage could cycle, and by that I mean walk within about 30 minutes, cycle within 30 minutes, what proportion have a viable public transport option, and also, even more importantly, what percentage don't, and how many people actually live within X distance of others that they might car share with, just to give you some examples. So we've run this exercise for about 300,000 individuals so far. And the percentages that we find are very consistent wherever you are in the UK. So for example, we know that typically 40% of commuters could walk or cycle. So 40% of everyone living at working at a particular location live within a 30-minute walk or cycle of that location. We also know that for about 54%, so over half of commuters, do not have access to a viable public transport option. And really interestingly, about 8 in 10 commuters live within a mile, so walking distance, of more than 10 colleagues who they work with whom they could share. So that information is very powerful. And when we speak to the senior management teams of major employers or local authorities, we can demonstrate what the potential is of sustainable travel for that organisation in terms of reducing their Accel scores and the process and the focus that we should be making to achieve that. So in terms of, oh, it's frozen again, sorry, excuse me one sec. Okay. So we've got 60% of commuters that are living too far away from work at the moment to be able to walk or cycle. But clearly through car sharing, we do have an option for them. I'm sorry, this is getting very jittery because I'm freezing on every slide at the moment. Okay. And this chart really just reinforces that. So what we're showing here is distance from the destination and the number of people that are able to walk or cycle. So everything left of this line are those that could walk or cycle to work, and then the other side are those that need to find other ways. So it's either public transport or car sharing. Okay, so just in terms of car sharing, now I hope this is going to work with the technology. I just wanted to show you a short film that gives you an indication. It's not in the Bristol area, it's in the Midlands, of what the potential is in terms of car sharing as part of the mix. So let's just try this. Hope you can see it and it works. If you can't, it may be I need to share my screen again.
Mark, I think with the number of tech gremlins we're having, I think Ali sent me this video, so I'll put it in the chat, or I'll share it on our Facebook page, and we can people who are interested can watch it later. But
okay.
Let's move on to the next bit, if that's okay. Thank you.
That's absolutely fine. Bear with me 1 second. I do apologise for this. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, because this is struggling, yeah, I'm going to stop there and take any questions. I think there's only one slide to come anyway.
Okay, all right then. So yeah, we had a few questions about the numbers you were showing, the data. It looked like they were coming from a 2011. Are those really the most up-to-date numbers we have on this? And
yeah, I mean, this is all census data. So
right, okay.
if you're looking at a region, you'll be looking at census data. Obviously, the next one's due 2021.
Okay.
From an organisational perspective, however, though, we input the latest travel survey data, so
right.
that will be a lot more recent.
Okay, and just out of my curiosity, when the next census is done, do you expect the numbers to have improved a bit, a little, a lot?
Well, I had an interesting conversation with the West of England Combined Authority today about the census, because it is due next year. And if you go out and take information, if we're in the same sort of situation we are now, you're going to get a rather skewed picture in terms of data for the next 10 years. So I'm not certain what the decision will be. This will be a government decision as to when they will actually undertake the census. But let's assume it's done when we're back to some sort of normality. I think we'll see a very different picture, because you will find a lot of people who have decided to work from home for part of the week, and that's going to massively change the picture. I'm also optimistic that, given the drive that's coming from consumers for change to happen and from businesses for change to happen, that we will see real behaviour change taking place. So I expect to see an improved position, yes.
Great. Yeah, do you want to make me host of the meeting again?
Yep.
And then we can, let's see. I tell you what, we've got yeah, no, okay, we'll stick with the original plan. Is Richard Norris? There you are. You're in the corner on my screen. Hello, Richard. So am I back to being? Oh, no, that's right. Oh yes. Oh God. Yeah, Mark, if you can make Gavin Spittlehouse the host. Sorry, I'm using computers. I've
let's see if I can find Gavin.
Thank you. Yes. So yeah, Mark, are you okay to stick around for a few questions after we've had Richard? Fantastic.
Yeah.
And because Richard's going to be talking a bit about cars as well, there may be some overlap. You may both be able to answer some of the questions together. That would be serendipitous. So yeah,
Right, Gavin should now be host.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, I will now unmute Richard. And I'm just going to mute you again, Mark, if that's all right.
Of course, yeah.
There you go. And okay, I have clicked the button, so it should be working on it. Hello, Richard.
Hi there, Dorian. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you great. So for the benefit of everybody else, Richard Norris is the Managing Director of Drive Green, which is a second-hand electric vehicle dealership in Shepton Mallet. And yeah, Richard, did you want to just start us off? I don't think you've got any slides, so do you just want to just tell us a little bit about the business?
No slides, so no technical glitches, hopefully. Just me. What I would like to dwell upon is the more technical issues. People owning an electric car. Obviously, electric cars are a huge part of zero carbon transport, as we all know. Obviously, lift sharing's great, riding, walking, all very good, but also a certain number of people who want to drive for various reasons, be it distance or preference for using a car. Obviously, we're an electric car dealership, one of the biggest in the country, and we've had a lot of experience with customers. Owning an electric car is a really, really simple thing to do. if you have off-street parking. Obviously, knowing my audience here, everyone's living in Clifton, so I would like to focus a little bit more on the practicalities of how you charge your electric car. The electric car is a great product for numerous reasons. We all know they're greener, they're better for the environment, we know they're cheaper to run, more reliable, and also a joy to drive. But the practicalities of charging is what I think holds back the uptake within the city. Like I say, if you've got off-street parking, easy, you just charge at home. When you live in Clifton and you don't have off-street parking, I think it's possibly useful to have charging at home as a contingent option, which kind of can be done using a standard sort of 3-pin charging lead that we provide with a car. You have to be very, very, very diligent with how you would do that in terms of trip covers, safety markings, cones, doing it overnight, making sure you've spoken to your neighbours. And I think really, if we're being honest, that's best kept as an emergency contingency. The issue then goes to how you're going to charge a car without charging at home, which means looking at the public charging network. I don't know if any of you have had a look already at something like ZapMap, which is a great resource for identifying local nearby charge points. Whenever someone comes in, they can't charge at home. We always sit them down before we even look at a car and just work out with them, like, how is this going to incorporate into your lifestyle? Where are you going to charge it? And we'll have a look at where you live, where you work, where you shop, options are. There are charge points everywhere of different types. You've got the rapid chargers, which are your super quick chargers, which will charge most cars with about sort of 80 miles of driving range in half an hour. That's practical on a week, once or twice a week. Maybe you stop for 30 minutes, read a book, charge your car that way. There are other charge points where you might park up for hours at a time and charge that way. The thing to do is look into your area, where you're going, where you go, and have a look and see what's there. I think that map is a good place to start, and obviously we can always help and advise. Your workplace is a very important thing as well. Like charging from home, you can just charge off any 13 amp plug, so it's not like your workplace necessarily needs to install a charge point or anything. You just need access to a plug and permission to charge from it. Obviously your car will be stationary at work for most of the day, and that's perfect charging time. Electric cars, electric cars are a great product. I think they're really important in our overall sort of sustainability movement. Not that kind of transportation is the answer to all the environmental problems we have, or electric cars are the only solution to that. However, electric cars are hugely visual and hugely engaging, perhaps more so than working to work. People know an electric car, and there's nothing more powerful a message than people seeing someone they know and identify with driving an electric vehicle. It shows it's possible. It makes a real statement that actually, no, I've decided to live a greener lifestyle and this is me doing it. You add on to that, the electric car is a really, really great product in so many levels, and really, really good to drive. Plus, they are new cars, so therefore they're not the cheap old bangers that you would think, but it's possible to get a really, really good 80-mile range vehicle from about sort of £8,000 upwards. So I appreciate that's out of some people's budgetary range. However, they're more affordable than people think. Electric cars are great. The only thing I would urge you is to have a good look and see how it can fit into your lifestyle in terms of charging. Not sure whether to throw it back over to you, Dorian, without risk of waffling on too much.
There we go. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So, so you said that. So you're based in Shepton Mallet, which is that right? Which is pretty easy for people in Bristol to get to. And I understood you did second-hand electric vehicles was sort of your primary thing. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Originally, my background green technologies. I did sort of solar and heat pumps and domestic domestic improvements. But I electric cars a few years ago. came onto the horizon with me as just another green technology, and I sort of adopted that in the mix of what I did, and it's kind of taken over.
Right. Well, we've definitely got some other events I'm sure you'd be a good speaker for then. Yeah, I'm just curious where you get the second-hand vehicles. Is there a lot of people getting rid of their electric vehicles?
Not really. The biggest challenge that the business faces, to be honest, is the acquisition of stock. You know, the demand for electric vehicles, as we know, is climbing upwards all the time, but the supply is always a couple of years behind. I have to work really, really hard to acquire the level of stock that we do, because although we're conveniently on your doorstep, we are the biggest used electric car specialist in the country. So I get all sorts of places. A lot of the newer stuff comes from finance companies. So a lot of people buy their cars from new on a 2 to 4 year finance deal, at the end of which they have to give their car back. Right. A lot of cars will enter the used market from that as a source. A lot of people will come to us with earlier electric cars and upgrade to newer electric cars. We buy a lot of electric vehicles privately in almost like an ethically responsible we buy any car kind of fashion. If people want to sell their electric car for any reason, they come to us. Occasionally we buy from auctions, but all over the place.
Yeah, great. I wondered if Tim Waite is around somewhere, and whether he might like to talk a bit about owning his hybrid car. I'm trying to find Tim. Or maybe he's got... Oh, there he is. Hi, Tim. Yeah, could you just talk briefly about sort of how you found owning a hybrid car?
I totally agree about the joy of driving an electric car compared with petrol for so many reasons. The simplicity of driving, for a start. However, I bought one about 3 years ago. It's a plug-in hybrid. So, and the reasons for buying that were twofold. One, the complete lack of infrastructure for driving an electric car any distance at the time. I mean, 3 years ago, there was virtually nothing. The only fast charger in Bristol was in IKEA, as I recall, which was free at the time, incidentally. Since then, I say I have enjoyed driving it. 90% of my driving is into Bristol. I live just outside, about 4 miles out. My car will do, in good conditions, up to 30. In the winter, with all the things going, about 20 miles. That's normally sufficient for me. The only reason I would go any further would be to visit family, and that's usually long distance. Hence the reason for buying a petrol and electric mix.
Yeah, great. I guess, Richard, I'm sure you've got some things you want to say to that. I guess one thing I would like to clarify, just for everybody's benefit, sort of where we're at in terms of sort of maximum range on an electric car now, especially compared to when Tim was looking a few years back.
Yeah, I mean, range costs money, of course, and the newer you get, the bigger the range. But you can look up to around about sort of 260 to 300 miles.
Wow.
However, you know, we sold lots of cars to lots of people, and one thing we always do is sort of delve into their actual driving lifestyle. Question one is always, what do you need the car to do on a daily basis? And I think most people, when they look at their average commute or their general regular drive, is well comfortably within the range of even the earliest electric car.
Right.
Well, I find perhaps a more poignant question. Sorry, Dorian.
Sorry, you went a bit kind of robotic.
I find a more poignant question is how often you would... Oh, did I? Okay.
Carry on.
Must be the reception here. Am I back again okay?
Carry on.
What I think is always the more poignant question is how often you're going to drive out of those journeys might determine how much of a pain it is. Occasionally, it's not a problem. I mean, it's always been very good. Where the problem lies is for city centre charging for people who don't have, have the ability to charge at home. But in terms of driving anywhere, with a bit of planning and a little bit of stopping, you can get anywhere even in the earliest electric cars. Like I say, the length of the journey and the frequency of doing so is what I think dictates the need to spend more and have a bigger range car.
Yeah. We just had a question, or more a comment, I suppose, in the chat, talking about a good way to try an electric vehicle, or a hybrid, in fact, if anyone's interested, is co-wheels. And so I wondered, Richard Drake, we didn't plan anything today, but I think you have used co-wheels in the past. And would you be okay to just come on for a second and talk about your experience with that? Because I know you used an electric vehicle, didn't you?
Sure. Well, about 18 months ago, I had a car and a motorbike, and for about a year, I've had none. And I started off with co-wheels to try out electric, to see how I would use it, to see whether I could do without it. And it was so patently obvious I just didn't need, because of my pattern of car use and motorbike use, motorcycling was a pure pleasure thing. And I couldn't justify that to myself. But the car driving, I managed to persuade my wife that we didn't need the car. And what's happened is not just when we've needed the car, it's been easy to use. We can choose whether we want electric or hybrid and what we're most comfortable with. But we just don't have any of the costs of owning a car. We hadn't thought that through before, but the relief to realize we don't have to pay insurance. We don't need to belong to the RAC. We don't have to think about servicing and MOTs. It's just all gone away. We just don't have to worry about it. And it doesn't take a lot of planning, because there's a lot of co-wheels. If you're in the city, it doesn't take a lot of planning. It's quite easy to pick a car and decide when you want to go. And it's so much cheaper if you're not using it every day. And what we found is we're actually not using the car at all. We're not even using co-wheels. We haven't used it since October. Our use has changed because it's not there. We just don't use it. If you've got a car in the drive, you've got easy access to a car, you've got all those costs of ownership, but you're then going to use it because it's sitting there.
Yeah.
And if it's not sitting there, you'll find your habits probably change.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. So so anyone thinking, oh, but I can't get rid of my car, Richard's done it. And maybe you don't have exactly the same circumstances as him, but it is possible to live without a fossil fuel car, which is sort of the point of what we're doing this for. So we're going to move on to questions in the chat. Thank you, everyone who's been typing those. If anyone else has got any more they want to add in, stick them in the chat. We'll get to them in a second. But I know this is also the point in the night where people start to leave. So I'm just going to quickly remind you to please join the mailing list for either Clifton Climate Action or the Bishopston, Cotham and Redland Energy Group. Both of those, it's easiest to do through the website. So that's either cliftonclimateaction.org or bcrenergygroup.org. And while you're there, please do check out our pages on local green resources. Obviously, our page on better transport options. This is on both websites, to be clear. Our pages on better transport options is going to be very relevant to everything we've talked about tonight. But another thing to consider is having an electric car is great unless that you're getting your electricity from a really horrible source. Then you're just moving your emissions somewhere else. So it's really important that you've got a 100% 100% renewable electricity tariff, especially if you're riding an electric bike or driving an electric car. There's information about all of that sort of thing on the website as well. Please do check it out. Either website, we put a lot of work into it. We think it's a really good resource. And finally, yes, if you have enjoyed tonight's talk, if you think it's been useful, please do send us some money on PayPal. It really, 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 really helps. We'd really, really appreciate it. It's paypal.me/Clifton Climate Action, all spelt out like that. And the money is shared between the two groups. Okay, that's the admin out of the way. Let's get to some questions. So yes, always a big one for electric cars, Richard, is the embodied energy of producing them and producing the batteries and all of that sort of thing. Do you want to talk about that a bit?
It's always the first question from people kind of, if you like, in a way throwing stones at the industry, and I 100% get it. You know, the one thing we can rely on the human race to do, if there's money in anything, to plunder the planet for the resources required. And I agree. Do you know what? It's the only area of the product that I deal with that I feel slightly uncomfortable with. Where I think it differs from, you know, for example, the burning of fossil fuels, is once the materials are extracted for your electric car batteries and your electric car battery is there, it is done. You know, it's not. You know, there is some embodied carbon within that process. However, it's a one hit. You know, these batteries currently predicted within the cars, all the cars will live out their whole life for their original battery point, where they're perhaps less useful in the cars. They become a home storage system, or they can become a grid buffer, things like that. You know, those batteries, that lithium in it is there, and hopefully they're for good, and they're enough to see the human race out through our energy consuming times. I wish it could be obtained more ethically. And hopefully, given time and progression and the lobbying of the general public in terms of the techniques used, things like that, hopefully we'll get there. But now we're in a commercial boom phase, and I think, sadly, it's an inevitability, I think, of what we can rely on people to do commercially. However, live with comfort in, you know, once it's done, it's there. You know, I've got a battery on the side of my house, for example, that will live there, hopefully, for as long as I live here and the next people beyond.
Great.
So hopefully that helps. So like I say, I can't sign into too much defense, but that's how I sleep at night.
Yeah, that's great. A couple of questions for Mark. The first one is, are there any major Bristol employers who have already achieved major changes in travel through lift share? And the other one, which I thought was interesting, was so yes, someone in the chat had heard the statistic about the percentage of people living within a 30-minute walk or cycle before, but they weren't aware of the percentage of people living within a short distance of other people who work in the same place. Yeah, how do we make that more widely known, I suppose?
Okay, so I'll take the first one first, which is organisations we're working with. I haven't got all the stats to hand, but I do know we're working with organisations like Bristol Airport, Boeing, the North Bristol NHS Trust, the universities. So there are a number of Bristol employers already engaged, but I would put out a plea that if any of you are connected to or work for any organisation in the Bristol area with more than 250 people, to encourage them to talk to us about reducing their commuting emissions to zero, because we will be able to help them to do that. And then coming on to the scoping, or the mobility scoping, and the number of people that live within close proximity. Our approach is business engagement. So we will have conversations, yes, with local authorities, but the most important route for us is to speak to major employers, whether they're private sector or public sector, because by taking that approach, we make sure that those employers are owners of the sustainability process. There are many advantages to an organisation, aside from sustainability, of investing in sustainable travel packages. They include the health and well-being of their staff, they include parking management, reduced costs, financial savings for employees, enhancement in terms of recruitment and retention of staff. There are many benefits. And so if we're able to speak to the senior management teams of the big employers and get them to own this, that's the way that we will communicate the fact that it's not rocket science, this stuff really. There are huge opportunities for organisations to help in terms of climate change and receive all those other benefits as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Ooh, I'm echoing strangely, that's interesting. Okay, what have we got next? Yeah, so we've had that one. Yeah. So, Richard's still here? I've lost him on my screen. Oh yes, there you are. Sorry, people leaving keeps moving the different people around. So yeah, Richard Norris. How much can you sort of talk about charging points. In particular, someone's asking, are councils able to install covered slots in the pavement outside someone's home so that it is not a trip hazard, and has a charge socket near the curb? Also, how common are charge points in street lights? Are things like this?
They exist. They exist. I mean, lamppost charging schemes have been, quite successfully rolled out in somewhere in London, Oxford, for example. It depends really a bit on the attitude of the council. It also depends a bit on the positioning of street lamps where they are. Quite often they are actually on the inside rather than the outside of the curb. In terms of sockets in the gutters, yeah, again, these things are all possible, but we have to, appreciate the appetites of local councils to do these things. I'd like to see more done with lamppost charging for sure, because the truth of the matter is that doesn't involve anything from the council in terms of finance. It just involves a bit of bureaucracy and them giving permission. There are third-party companies that will convert, lampposts in the street. I'd like to see more of it. I mean, Bristol's council is actually quite forward-thinking. However, through their revived network, their plan to deal with it is, rather than to open up Bristol to lamppost charging schemes, for example, to try and roll out a bigger network of available charge points throughout the city. I think they're planning those more to be rapid chargers, which I think is a good thing. But they're also looking at a scheme whereby employers with car parks can give up a space or two in their car park for Revive to install charge points in. So charging on the street, yes, certainly possible. It depends on the attitude of the council. So a bit of lobbying is sort of required there. It would be very, very convenient to do so, and of course much safer than running cables across pavement, even if they are cheap.
Yeah, great. A really interesting one for Mark, actually, about lift sharing. Someone's asked about school runs. Obviously, loads of cars are on the street because of school runs. Can you do anything with that?
So it's something we've tried before, and that's not to rule it out. I guess there's a number of things happening at once. I think previously when we've tried to undertake car sharing, we're not the only ones. I think there's been a number of organisations that have tried this. They've struggled because there are children involved. And I think there tends to be informal networks where parents are comfortable with their children sharing with others. And it's not necessarily the case when you're going into a more formal process for that. So that struggled. That's not to say that we can't be achieving that, for example, for teachers and for universities and for colleges and other places of higher education. The other thing is that, again, as we continue to evolve the scoping software, what we can now do is start to work with minibus providers or even other bus providers for schools, so that rather than having the situation that you do now where children are not necessarily picked up close to their home by the bus, we can identify where the best locations are and the best route programming for buses to operate to be really efficient in terms of taking children to and from school. And the other aspect to this, in terms of the commute, is that one of the barriers that is often given to car sharing to work is the fact that the parent needs to drop their children at school first. Now, when we have that conversation with those individuals, the way we explain it is of course, that the journey to work starts from the school. And actually, you will find there are a lot of other parents dropping their kids off at school who are also working at or near the same place that you are. So there's a lot around school and education. It's obviously become a lot more complicated in the current circumstances. But again, that may be an opportunity. We are working very closely with Arriva, very closely with Stagecoach, and hopefully soon with First, to help them with their programming of transport for schools.
Great, yeah, that's really good. another one on electric charging and things. Where did it go? I own a Leaf. Can I offer my charging socket for others to use? This is someone who has a Nissan Leaf. Their charging socket is on the front of their home. It's free at convenient times. Is there a method for making that available for other people to use?
Yeah, through ZapMap, they now do a thing called Zap Home. You can register your charge point with ZapMap, and it'll appear on ZapMap, and then people can, if you like, use it from your home, be that for free, be that for a little bit of a donation or a charge or a bottle of wine, whatever is your currency. So yeah, that's there. So if you contact ZapMap, they'll put you on the map as a Zap Home. You have a look, there's more and more of them popping up all the time.
Great. And yeah, the note I've just been passed is about there are platforms for just hiring out your car, or especially your EV, just a whole car to someone if you're not using it. And there's information on some of those on both of our websites. None of them would come and talk to us. And so that's why they get a mention after the meeting is already supposed to have finished. Do you need to book an appointment at Drive Green, Richard?
Preferably, especially given the current state of affairs with social distancing and managing numbers on the forecourt. But also, more importantly, it means we can allocate enough time. We tend to spend quite a lot of time with every visitor because there's always lots to go through. So yeah, if possible, please do make an appointment. Just give us a quick call beforehand, and we'll find a slot for you.
Nicola would like me to remind everyone to follow us on Instagram, Clifton Climate Act. Do with that knowledge what you will. She's doing some good stuff. Oh yes, the Fully Charged show. If anyone isn't familiar with this, it's there's I think. Do you want to talk about this? All right.
Sorry, I'm just going to butt in. The Fully Charged show. If anybody doesn't know it, it's run by the guy who was in Red Dwarf, and they do fantastic videos, and they also do an annual show, so which was supposed to be on this year. But anyway, they're very up to date on all sorts of EV information, aren't they?
Yeah, no, good stuff. That's our chair, Nikki. She wasn't going to get involved, but she just knows too much. What else did we have? Yeah, another one for you, Richard. EV, other than cars, little vans like the Berlingo, which I've not heard of before, but do you sell other second-hand EVs other than cars?
We don't do vans. I'd have when I first started the business. Yeah, we did have a little bit of a tinker around with the vans. However, the vans weren't quite there yet as much as the cars are. I guess they're still quite a niche product, and in a way, you get a lot more value in the car because of the masses that have been sold. In terms of their question specifically, Renault do an electric Kangoo van. Comes with a battery lease option, which makes it quite cheap to buy up front, and you pay like a monthly hire charge on the battery. The only caution that I would give to people is to do with its range. If you're looking in the dead of winter, you're probably looking at a 45-mile range vehicle that doesn't charge very quickly. So as with any electric car purchase, yeah, you'd need to sort of really dwell down into what you need the vehicle to do and where you need it to go. But it's there as an option. And certainly if someone really wanted one, I could always get one. It's not a problem.
Great. Yep. So we've got a question here. Someone just saying that they're in love with their electric car, and apparently there is a government grant for £3,500 to buy an electric car. Do look into that if you're thinking about getting one, I guess. Going down. My biggest concern is the fractured and complicated structure of UK charging points. Too many slow chargers, plus the need to register in advance, and too expensive. It needs to be as usable as calling in to fill up with petrol. I mean, I don't imagine anyone would disagree with that. I think we all want electric cars to be as user-friendly as petrol ones. That's eventually the goal, really. And nitrogen. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to see nitrogen cars at some point. That would be nice. Hydrogen, not nitrogen. Nitrogen's the one that explodes. Forget I said anything. I am not a scientist. Outside UK now. Good response. Have to be addressing the social issues outside UK now. No. Good. Us thinking we're doing great things here in our bubble and yet contributing to bad things elsewhere. There are solutions, alternative sources. they're expensive. Right, yes, no, okay. The production of electric vehicles is very complicated. Good point. Yeah, we talked about the school run. Is the grant, okay, Jill, absolutely don't want to repeat it. Okay, I just want to make sure we haven't got any other really interesting questions.
What we're waiting for is a scrappage scheme, really, about the part exchange.
Right. So yeah, someone had a question about part exchange on electric vehicles, I guess. You want to handle this one as well?
Well, no.
Okay.
The point is that what we're really waiting for is the government. Everyone's hoping for is the government to bring in a scrappage scheme that might encourage people to go greener. But there's no sign of it at the moment, as far as I understand.
Okay. I can't keep up with all of your wonderful questions. Okay. Yeah, so there's a couple of links in the, someone has linked Fully Charged Show in the comments. Thank you very much. Please do check that out if you're interested in electric vehicles. Yeah, I actually got an email today. I think it was about a platform that sort of rivals a ZapMap, I think, called Wow Car. I haven't had a chance to look it up properly yet, but that exists. I have some friends who have put on my insurance for a small sum and they drive my car and contribute a small pound per mile. Yeah, so Michael is already effectively hiring out his own car for the cost of insurance and petrol. I hope you're doing that legally. Part exchange for electric. Insurance for theft of an electric bike. Are they stolen often? I'm sure you can get them insured. I would definitely advise getting a decent lock, and if you can, not locking them up on the street. Just generally being as careful as you would normally be with a very expensive bit of kit. And some of them come with special keys that the electric won't kick in without that. But I don't know if there's any special insurance things to be aware of. There are other car sharing companies, but I think less green than Co-Wheels. Yet again, we've got more information about more of these on the websites. Are there other car sharing schemes in Bristol? Mark, the reason we got Lift Share on is that we understood you guys were one of the biggest in Bristol.
Yes. I wouldn't know of any other sharing organisation in Bristol.
There are others
sure
which aren't. There are others which, as far as I can tell, aren't Bristol specific or anything, but certainly the information that your CEO, Ali, sent me suggested that more people in Bristol are using Lift Share than blah, blah car or the other ones that we looked into. I think that's what it was called.
Yeah, I mean, blah, blah are more European focused and focus more on the one-off journeys. Because obviously a one-off journey across Europe can be quite significant distances, but our key focus, our core focus is on the commute.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. I think. There are also cycles with removable batteries. Yes, good point. Some of the electric bikes, talking about insurance for those. Yes, take the battery off if that's possible and take it with you, because that's the most expensive and valuable part of it. All right, I believe that is us at the end of our questions. Thank you so much to Richard and to Mark and to Teddy, who has had to go already. Please check out the website, join the mailing list, do all of the lovely admin things I said. We will be back in 2 weeks' time with a talk about how we can decarbonize our food. The event is on Facebook and Eventbrite. We've got other ones. October is Biodiversity Month, just cause. And we've got some really good speakers talking about different issues on biodiversity in October. We've got, I'm not going to go through all of them, but please do check out the website and the Facebook page for details on the rest of our events. Thank you all very much for coming, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.